Democratic delegate there got elected in a special election, if memory serves me correct, in December of 2013. Sam Rasoul, delegate, great to have you with us.
Great to be with you, John.
Well, we've got a special theme song, Sam, just for you. Here it is.
Show 'em how to Sam dunk. Sam Rasoul. Show 'em how to Sam dunk. Sam for the note. Show 'em how to Sam dunk. Sam for delegate. Show 'em how to Sam dunk. 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 Got to the line. They thought he was gonna throw it up. Sam Rasoul. Show 'em how to do the Sam dunk. Show 'em how to Sam dunk. Say this ain't your first trip. Education first. Gotta get our kids' minds ripped. Only way we make a change is if we stand behind it. Opening up a job for people who don't want to sit. Make no better place to live.
That is a great song that your staff sent me on YouTube. So we have to play.
It brings back memories. The night before our election, some of my supporters who put together music in the Roanoke Valley surprised me the night before by putting together that minute-long theme song. So that was real nice of them.
Well, that's they did a fabulous job with that. Anyway, with Democrat delegate Sam Rasoul from the Roanoke area, and that is District 11, District 11. Now,
District 11, yeah.
Yeah. If I can ask you this, let's get straight to one of the media issues. You've been a critic of what you called partisan districting. And you've got we've got several redistricting initiatives, Delegate Rasoul, that have gone through the Senate, coming to the House. What say you?
Yeah, the bottom line is that in a session with ethics reform, we can't have real ethics reform until we start to address some underlying systemic issues. One of them, I believe, is a fundamental conflict of interest, with legislators drawing their own district lines, and nonpartisan or at least having some type of compromise commission that actually helps to draw some of these lines, but more importantly has a set of criteria that's nationally recognized, can help to make sure that we have some districts that are drawn in a fair way.
Some of the criticism has been that many of the districts in the House are drawn in a partisan way. So when you say draw them in a nonpartisan way, I mean, what would be different? How would it change?
So as I alluded to the criteria that we talked about first, that criteria would ensure that there's compactness, that's respecting certain city-county lines that already exist and other jurisdictional lines, respecting communities of interest, but also keeping in mind other case law precedent that we have on the books. So there are a variety of criteria that's spelled out that you use as general rules in putting together these districts.
Delegate Rasoul, the reality, though, is that, and we just had one of your colleagues on earlier and addressed it, Rob Bloxham, who basically said, and I kind of agree with him, no matter what system you have, to take partisanship out of it is just not reality. Whether it's a college, whether it's an independent commission, whoever it is, there's always going to be a partisan element. So what's really going to be different than what you have now? Because, now it is what it is, and, people can still go out and, win in their districts or whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, what's the insurance that if it's turned over to some independent commission that anything will be dramatically different?
Yeah, it's pretty. You kind of paint in black and white. Unfortunately, it's not that way. The reality is voters should choose their politicians and not the other way around. SJ 284, which is the big piece of legislation introduced by Republican Senator Jill Vogel, that I'm a big fan of. What that does is it's mostly partisan appointees, but it also brings in a sizable independent contingency. And, it's clearly any person that looks at the districts that we have drawn can see that they have been gerrymandered.
Right.
That's clear to anyone that looks at these districts. And what we need to do is make sure that we're drawing districts that use that criteria that I alluded to earlier, and getting back to this principle that already, several states, of course, have adopted a variety of different methods, and we need to find what the Virginia way is for it to ensure that Virginia voters can choose their politicians and not the other way around. So we don't have to, for a variety of reasons, not only is there the ethical principle of politicians drawing their own district lines, which I believe is a conflict of interest, but also, now we're having to focus much more on primaries. We've become much more hyper-partisan, and I think that this would help to alleviate that.
Delegate Rasoul, let me just ask you point blank. If the majority was flipped and David Toscano was the majority super leader, Scott Surville was a majority whip leader, you guys had a super majority, would there be the same complaints about the districts? I'm just going to ask you straight up.
There would be the same complaints from me. You certainly wouldn't hear it from the majority. I mean, I think we saw that in the 1980s. One of my colleagues, Delegate Ken Plum, was in a supermajority. He was pushing redistricting reform. I wish I was there with him. And because there was a majority there that didn't want that, because they would have to give up some power in the House, then they weren't in favor of it. The reality is, though, is that with redistricting reform, all scenarios show that Republicans will continue to hold a sizable majority in the House, but in addition to that, they'll actually gain seats and hold a larger majority in the Senate. And so we would have a firm Republican General Assembly, and that's something that I would be happy to live with if I knew that this issue was fixed for generations to come.
So what you're saying is you're taking the high road on this, as I understand this, Delegate Rasoul, and you're saying that, look, let's get these districts the right way so that the voters decide, not the politicians, as you said, deciding by gerrymandering it in, and let the chips fall where they may. And I think the other thing I heard is if your plan were to go into play, that Republicans would be in control anyway, but it would be the right way. Is that a firm understanding?
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. I mean, the reality is that the way you draw these House and Senate districts, just flatly based upon partisan numbers, is that the Republicans would continue to hold a majority. But we're taking a long-term view of this. We need to fix this problem for many years to come. It's unfortunate that 30 years ago, when Democrats had a majority, they did not take advantage of it. But, at one point we have to wake up and say, this is just the right thing to do.
I found this. I was flabbergasted by this. There's not a lot of things that go on that flabbergast me. But the initiative yesterday in the past couple of days by Senator Bryce Reeves to take several precincts in his district and carve the Democrats out and give them the deeds, Senator deeds, and then take Republicans and put them into his to make that district an easier pathway to victory. How do you even do that, Delegate Rasoul, with a straight face?
Yeah, so I guess, you're reaffirming my point here. I don't know I haven't studied those precincts that are going back and forth in that particular transaction, but it clearly is, trying to help out both the Republican and Democrat in that transaction. And that kind of stuff is just what Virginia voters are fed up with, and that's what we really have to stop. And that's the kind of nonsense that people are really pushing back.
You're in the minority, super minority. Do you ever get, and it's tough in your position to get anything done. Do you find, is it frustrating at all?
No, not as frustrating as you'd think. When we come down here, the vast majority of people are really interested in building quality relationships. As long as, as long as you don't mind saying hi first, going to their office, swallowing your pride for a moment. People are ready to build good relationships. I personally had a few bills passed, the House and the Senate, and so I was happy with that. Plus, being a freshman coming in, being a member of the super minority, you are thrust into a variety of situations that help you learn a lot more faster than if I was one of the supermajority. So certainly there are pros and cons, and I'm taking a glass half full approach to it. But I have loved every minute, and I'm learning a lot here in my first term.
Delegate Rasoul, you represent an area that has been hammered with job loss. The Roanoke area just losing another 550 jobs when the railroad pulled out. You've got so many people that worked in the coal industry. They're out of jobs. What are you doing for Southwest Virginia to get jobs in there?
We're very fortunate that Roanoke in particular has the second most diverse economy in Virginia. And so we weren't so dependent upon one employer or the other, but we were disappointed, of course, in the decision to move 500 jobs from Roanoke to Atlanta by Norfolk Southern. But as far as moving forward, we're really lucky that we've got a great city manager and a great team. For me, it's about diversifying the Roanoke economy. What we've done is similar to the show Shark Tank, for example. Back in last November, we created what's called the Star Tank. As you may know, Roanoke is the star city of the South.
Right.
And we brought together 20 or so investors with 80 or so entrepreneurs, just making sure that people understand that Roanoke is a great place to not only bring your family, but it's a great place to invest and start a business. And if you've been to downtown Roanoke, you've seen the revitalization of the region, and we're going to continue to build on that. So sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but we're going to keep pressing forward.
Okay, why don't we talk about energy for a moment? The Mountain Valley Pipeline, just truth in advertising. I'm in favor of it. I think it'll bring cheaper energy, which impacts everybody's bottom line, every family out there. It also has the ability to create jobs along the pipeline because manufacturing companies are able to come in and construct their plant by the pipeline and actually tap into it. Mountain Valley Pipeline, how do you stand on that and why?
Yeah, when you get into, of course, these types of issues, you certainly are talking about property rights is really the big issue in the Roanoke Valley with regards to the pipeline itself. I personally am against it, but you brought up some important points. One in particular that I agree with, and one I'm not very sure about. One is that for sure, just like they did in Carroll County in negotiating the pipeline coming through, businesses can tap into it. If negotiated and placed correctly, it can actually help bring in a certain industry if it's going by a certain industrial zone. That will enable them to have an inexpensive source of energy for sure. And there's no doubt that would certainly create jobs in the short term. As far as bringing down energy prices, specifically in the region, I don't think it would help that at all right now. So, there's really multiple sides to it. Having the larger pipe is about 42 inches, only buried 36 inches down. We've seen a number of instances where been a variety of explosions and whatnot. We have so many pipelines already coming through Southwest Virginia, so you're right, this is not anything new.
Right.
And people need to know that. There are all kinds of pipelines already there. But I believe that Virginia has one of the least diversified energy portfolios, and if we're going to concentrate a lot of our energy, we should be looking at diversifying our portfolio like North Carolina has done.
Bottom line is right now, if you had to say Mountain Valley Pipeline up or down, what would it be?
Down.
Down, okay. Let's get to, I've got a couple more minutes. One of my frustrations, maybe you can walk me through it. Once again, we had a couple of legislators introduce bills to increase the minimum wage. I'm for increasing the minimum wage. There's no empirical evidence that says when it goes up, you lose jobs. All you have to do is look at Washington. Why does it get no traction?
Yeah, really, because the whole conversation is clouded. I'll give you an example. There was one bill that was introduced to increase the minimum wage on July 1st to $15.15. And, for me, being a business person, former CFO, that's just not practical. And I don't believe in endorsing, that type of legislation, even though principally I believe in raising the minimum wage. The reality is that from an economic standpoint, raising the minimum wage too high in certain places in particular can have a negative economic impact. But given where we're at right now, there's certainly significant room to raise the minimum wage that would have a significant net benefit to the economy. And we've tried to take a black and white approach, saying that raising the minimum wage is good or bad, and it's just not true. And what we need to do is challenge ourselves, challenge the voters and politicians to really take an empirical view of what can really happen in these instances. So $15 an hour in Northern Virginia, may work specifically in certain industries, but it certainly it doesn't work in Southwest Virginia.
Well, but there's a big difference, as you say. We're out of time, Delegate. There's a big difference between $15 an hour and $8 or $9 an hour, and I think we're on the same page on that. I got to take off. I'm out of time. We're coming up to the top of the hour. I want to thank Delegate Sam Rasoul from Roanoke for being with us.